I think a lot about travel and not just that, but people's attitudes towards travel. Like what makes people feel fulfilled, what makes people feel like they're missing out. It's a big part of what I do because I want to try and help fill that gap or bridge that gap, I should say. And recently over the past 24, 48 hours, I've been thinking about something that I want to share with you because I think it really kind of gets to the heart of the problem when it comes to travel and affordability. So we're going to dig into that today. Of course, this is wherever we end up, a place where we talk about where we go, the things we do to get there, and what that feels like along the way. My name's Kat, and sometimes I'm solo, sometimes with friends. But one thing's for sure, I'm always on the move. So, if you've been existing in time and space, it's currently 2026 as I sit down and have this conversation with you. And there's a lot of conversations going on that feel kind of timeless to me. They're the same type of thing that people talk about all the time, Prices have gone up. Things are happening in the world that contribute to how things have gotten a little bit less affordable and so on and so forth, right? Like you've heard about all this probably before. Maybe you're hearing about it now. I don't want to dig into or drone on about the specifics because this is something that, like I'm experiencing day to day. But anyway, the reason that I kind of bring that up is because it's part of life right now. And I do think that it's been part of life before as well. I don't think that this is nearly as unique to this moment in time as some people believe it to be, but that is a rabbit hole for another day. But in these discussions, sometimes what ends up happening is you start to get groups of people, especially with social media being what it is. You start to get groups of people talking about, what priorities should look like, what it should mean to be going on a vacation or traveling, and how you should be handling yourself when you do, because, aren't you taking into consideration that people are struggling financially and so on and so forth. You've probably heard this, right? It's a conversation that happens all the time. And in that little pocket, especially amongst younger people, there's this conversation happening about how like certain things aren't accessible to them because the world has changed and dealt them this set of cards, this hand that just makes things a little bit difficult for them given the circumstances. And I want to start off by saying, like, I get it. I totally understand. And I've been there, like I've been in a position where it just feels like you're down and you're being kicked. But I also think that there's a portion of this discussion, portion of the feeling of just hopelessness and helplessness and inaccessibility, the inability to do things, that is a little bit more mindset related than some people might think. Okay, now I'm going to start off by saying that I understand there's definitely going to be a tendency to take what I'm saying and run with it in the wrong direction, right? There's surely someone out there who's going to say, I can't believe you'd be so insensitive to think that you can just think your way out of problems. That is not what I'm suggesting. People struggle financially, they struggle with motivation, they struggle with a lot of things, okay? I have been one of those people. I'm struggling through a number of things on any given day, okay? But I also am someone who, because I have been on this roller coaster of life for a significant amount of time, dealing with the ups and downs, just like everyone has to as they go through life. I've recognized things over time. One of the things that I'm recognizing is that there is like a perspective issue that I think needs to be discussed in a real way, which is also kind of a challenge when you have conversations like the one that I want to have with you, because I think, some people are afraid to talk about these types of things honestly because they know that people are going to take what they have to say and run with it. So anyway, I know I'm saying a lot of words here, but what I'm ultimately trying to get at is this, okay? I am always thinking about what it means to go places and do things, and what it means to do all of that with as little as possible. Maybe it's the least amount of money possible. Maybe it's the least amount of time. Because I've been a person who has struggled with time and money. So I get that, not everyone can take a 2-week vacation that costs them $25,000. Like, some people need to manage expectations. They need to manage their time, manage their money. So I'm always thinking about how to do that and trying to figure out how to help people do that. And one of the things that I'm noticing is like this pattern, especially when it comes to certain types of experiences, especially when it comes to certain types of destinations. And that pattern is that I think people, I don't really know how to articulate this well, so just bear with me as I kind of lay this out. I think that people, they want to have every experience possible because they're under the impression they haven't done a thing unless they have checked every single item off a list. Okay? For example, let's talk a little bit about I'm gonna mention theme parks. Okay? This is not something that is only related to theme parks, and honestly, I'm kicking myself for even mentioning theme parks because I'm sure that some people are going to turn their brain right off and they're going to, anyway, theme parks aren't meant for everyone to do everything. Theme parks are a build your own experience type place. You go, and then people who like certain types of rides go on those rides. People who like the shows go on those experiences or do those experiences. People who like to meet characters go do that. There are all these little things that you can do inside a theme park. There are all these restaurants that you can go to inside a theme park. All these different snacks that you can try. And while it might be fun, it might seem fun to do and see it all, you can't do and see it all. It's just not possible. Usually there's not enough hours in the day, and for most people, there's just not enough money to pay for all of that, right? It's just not something that you can necessarily do. You can't eat at every table service restaurant available in one particular place. Think about it as if we were talking about a city. Very similar thing applies, right? There are only so many hours in a day. You can't go to absolutely every experience, see every historic site, go to every museum, eat at every must-do restaurant, get every must-have coffee, all within the span of 24, maybe 48 hours. It's just not doable, right? You have to choose your own adventure. You have to pick what place is most important to you and the people that you're traveling with. Somewhere along the way, I feel like this particular message got lost. I feel like rather than actually deciding that there would be one thing that you go to a place for and anything else was a bonus, people started to build their travels, build their vacations, build everything, having no real focus. The focus being the big picture, the focus being the city, Boston, the focus being the theme park, Walt Disney World, Universal, Dollywood, whatever. And so they don't zero in on something that's really important to them. And because they have such a long list of things that they want to do, they want to see, they want to experience, they want to try, they want to have, buy different souvenirs or whatever the case, right? It becomes too big an ask for most people, again, when it comes to time, but especially when it comes to money. And I feel like, maybe social media played a role in this, because there is this thing that, you sometimes can fall victim to as you're sitting there scrolling on your phone trying to figure out what it is you want to do with your next long weekend. You can sometimes find yourself going, oh, well, obviously I have to go for business class, and obviously I have to get this really fancy hotel, and then obviously I have to go for the upgrade package at this particular place. Obviously I have to go do the table service dining because God forbid I eat at that quick grab and go place or that stand on the side of the road or whatever the case may be. And I feel like this is reflected, especially when you're talking to certain communities, certain groups. I don't really want to say community because I feel like that says something that I'm not intending to say, but when you're talking to people, having conversations with people about what their vacations look like, about what, the experience that they're having looks like, or the experience that they want to have, it's not as common nowadays to hear people say, oh, I just can't wait to go to this one place to do this one thing. There's this long list of must-dos and must-sees, and then they feel like they just haven't done it all, or that it's not worth doing or seeing or whatever, when they can't accomplish that entire list. I see this all the time, especially when I'm having conversations with families about visiting places like Walt Disney World. I know I'm bringing a theme park discussion back into this, but I see this all the time. I can't tell you the last time that I talked to someone who was looking forward to doing Disney because they wanted to experience what Disney had to offer, just included in the ticket price. It's always like, well, the rides are great, but we have to do this special breakfast, and then we're doing this special dinner, and, we made the reservation 60 days in advance, and I have to drink around the world, and that's going to cost me, $10, $15 per drink, and times 11, and then we have to get this snack, that's $10, this snack, that's $6. I don't want to carry a water bottle because of course not, so that's going to be another $6. And then all of that adds up, and then they're like, oh, I can't believe that we spent all that money. It's so expensive. And here's the thing, okay? If what you want to do is all of that, if that seems like a great experience to you, and you have the money for it, you have the time, everything is, in place, all the pieces have fallen and they come together nicely, then that's fine. No judgment. You should travel, you should do what you want to do, how you want to do it. But where it gets sketchy, where it becomes a problem, is when the conversation turns away from, when I fly, I like to fly, business class, first class, whatever. I like to get the upgraded seats, and I like to get the better hotel, and I like to get the theme park tickets, and you can't do the parks unless you get the skip the line service for, however many dollars per person per day, and you can't do it. It's a waste if you don't do it exactly like this. That is not the case. There is no such thing as, air quotes, a waste if you don't do it like this. That is a fabricated line of thinking that people who have preferences say. And again, it's fine if you want to do that type of trip and that's how you want to do it and that's a must do for you. No problems there. But the number of people who have created this storyline, let's call it, that you can't experience a thing without doing A, B, and C. The number of people who have done that they have this unintended consequence of turning people off of going to those places and doing those things and experiencing the things that they want to do because they think that it's completely unattainable based on these things that these people who have deep pockets and very specific preferences say are big air quotes must-dos, or you quote can't do without it. Now, in my opinion, I think that travel, going places, doing things, having experiences, it is much more accessible than people make it out to be. I'm not saying it's free. It can be. especially if you're traveling local. But still, there's some cost when it comes to transportation and whatnot. But it certainly doesn't have to be a break the bank, I had to save up for years to do this type of thing that some people make it out to be. And I'm sure you might be wondering, well, Kat, you say that that's the case, but how is it possible to travel and have these experiences without having a significant amount of money to blow? You know? Well, let me tell you how it's possible. We're just going to touch on this subject now. Of course, we can dig more into this. I've talked about this before. Wildly unpopular topic, by the way. Okay? I've made videos about this type of thing for years, and people don't want to hear the answer to this question. This is why you don't hear people talk about it, because people get they're more interested in seeing people who are going for the upgrades, spending the money, all of that. They don't want to hear how to make it work. But that's just my experience as someone who has been making videos about different levels of travel to different places. Nonetheless, don't want to go down that rabbit hole either. The way that you make things happen, and I know this is going to sound cuckoo bananas, is to think about the reason that you're doing the thing that you want to do. Think about the reason you want to go to that theme park. Think about the reason that you want to go to that city, that country, whatever the case. Do you want to go because you want to, just, I'll use Boston as another example. Do you want to go experience the history that is Boston? Do you want to go walk the Freedom Trail? Do something like that? Great. Go to Boston. Walk the Freedom Trail. Cost you nothing, by the way, to do that. Stay in a hotel that works for you. Maybe you stay in a hotel that's a little bit out of the way, but you can manage to get into town. Maybe you have such a limited amount of time that you stay in this place that's, it fits your budget, but it's right there. All of that works out nicely, but that's your focus. You do that. You run down to the 7-Eleven and grab yourself a sandwich so that you can eat lunch like that. No, you don't have to eat a $25 lobster roll and then go get a $30 pizza and then go get cannolis. You don't have to do all of that. Can you? Absolutely. Can you budget for it? Totally. Is it something that will add to your trip? Yes, if you're interested in it. But what's the one thing? What's the one thing you really want to do? Do that thing. Maybe you only eat McDonald's when you're there because you're like, I know that I can eat this on a tight budget. It'll get the job done. No guesswork. But that's what I'm going to do. Wake up in the morning, Starbucks, go for a walk, McDonald's. Then maybe I grab something from 7-Eleven for dinner, or, 7-Eleven for lunch and McDonald's for dinner. Whatever the case may be. Maybe that's the route you go. Anything wrong with that? Absolutely not. Absolutely not, because the whole function was to get there so that you could do the thing you wanted to do, and the thing you wanted to do was the Freedom Trail. Maybe you travel to a destination for something that is, it is simple as could be, but nothing else is included in that. New Haven, Connecticut, a place we recently just talked about. Incredible budget-friendly vacation destination. We went and got this historic cheeseburger, which is a place I wanted to get. I wanted to check out, called Louis' Lunch. It was like under $10 for that. My husband and I split it, so, that's like $10 for one person for lunch. That's with the pasta salad, the potato salad. It's nothing. Get the cheeseburger. I think it was like $6 or something. We got ourselves a pizza. It was a little pricey as far as pizza is concerned. But still, it's no big deal. Easily shareable. If that's the reason you want to go to that place, go there for that. Eat the cheap food if the cheap food is what you're interested in, or if it's what you like. Do the free things around. My goodness, New Haven, so much to do there. But stop blowing your budget on these other things that people say you have to do. You don't have to get a pizza from all of the 3 pizza places and spend $30 per pizza in order to do that. You don't have to wait in line at all of those places in order to do that. If that's not what you're interested in, go get one pizza and call it good. And if you feel fulfilled when you come home, that's really all that matters. And I know. There are those who will push back against this and they'll go, well, what's the point of going all that way? The point is you wanted that one thing. You wanted to do that one thing. So you did it. You feel good about it. But you're not going to feel good about spending all of that money on that tomahawk steak that cost you way too much, but it was at a Michelin star place. And so you went there because that's what everyone said to do. That's going to be the same shit that you can get in your hometown 9 out of 10 times, or the city nearby. If that means something to you, that's great. And again, you should do what you want to do. And if that's it, then do it. But if it doesn't mean anything to you, if it's something that you're like, I don't really care, then why are you investing in that? Why is that where you're focusing all of your time, energy, and money on? Why is that the thing? Now, again, the whole reason we're talking about this is because I think that the perspective is off. I think that there are a lot of people who they're focusing too broad, But I also think that, it's tough to articulate, And I know that it can make me sound incredibly insensitive because everyone's situation is different. And I'm well aware of that. So I want to make sure that I'm very clear that I'm aware of that. But I think that people want too much. They want too much. And they're under the impression that the things that they want, the big long list of things that they want, is all a necessity. But deep down, it's not. I don't really think that it is. But somewhere along the way, we've lost touch with that. And I think a lot of people have lost touch with that. Especially, again, younger people. And I'm not saying that because I'm trying to say that younger people don't know. No, that's not my perspective at all. But I think that there are a lot of younger people out there who haven't been given the proper guidance so that they don't have the understanding of what it means to do things, how to make things work. And I can't pretend to tell you how to make every situation work for every single person out there. But what I can tell you as someone who has gone a lot of places, done a lot of things with very little money to my name, is that it's about knowing what you want, like I mentioned, focusing on that, and understanding where you can make the sacrifice. That's kind of another really important key point of this discussion as well. You can't have anything without sacrificing something. I know we all want to have our cake and eat it too. And there are some people who can. But at the end of the day, there's still a sacrifice there. They're sacrificing time, overtime, extra hours, a second job, so that they can sacrifice money, put that money up to pay for the extra things. Not everyone has that luxury. Not everyone wants to do that. So you have to think about where you can cut corners elsewhere. For me, there have been times where I've flown the cheapest flights I can get my hands on. And then I stay at a slightly nicer hotel because I want a nicer hotel. There have been times where I'm like, no, I am flying on a nice flight. I want my Comfort Plus on Delta. I want the nicer seats because I want a little bit of extra room. But I'll stay in a cheaper hotel because I manage my expectations and I decide where I'm willing to sacrifice, what I want to be the best part of my trip, and where I'm willing to skimp on other things. That's part of it too. But it really comes down to understanding what your preferences are, who you are, and what you want out of your trip, out of the adventure. And if you continue to let other people drive your preferences, that's when it feels like too much. That's when it feels inaccessible. Because instead of going, you know what, this is really what I want, it's going to be expensive, but I'm willing to work for it because it's what I really want, you find yourself in a position where you're like, I'm never going to afford this. I'm never going to be able to afford this. Probably because it wasn't worth it. That's probably why you default to that. And I know that's uncomfortable. That's something I've had to come to terms with myself many times. But the things that are worth doing, we tend to be willing to make the appropriate sacrifices in order to do. It's the things we're not really crazy about that we're like, I don't know. And once you come to terms with that and look that square in the face, everything starts to come a little bit easier. The ball starts to roll a lot quicker, and you end up getting where you want to be faster. So that's something that that's what's on my mind. It's been on my mind, like I said, for the past couple days. And it's a topic that we're probably going to have to dig a little bit more into. But I just wanted to share those thoughts with you while they were bouncing around my head. Because I do think that this is such an important discussion that isn't being had by enough people right now, especially not in the travel space. I think that there's too much of like, just understand that travel is a luxury and come to terms with that. But while that is true, and I'm not saying that it isn't a luxury to be able to travel at all, go places and do things at all, I think that that is such a cop-out to just say, well, it's going to cost you a lot of money and not give you the tools to figure out how to make it work, even when you might not have as deep pockets as the people who have laundry lists of must-dos and must-sees. So I'm going to leave you with that, because that's the thought. That is the complete thought that has been bouncing around my head. If you have any thoughts you want to share, let me know. Tell me what your thoughts are on this. Like I said, we're going to have to dig more into this in the future. Hopefully this time around people will be a little bit more interested in hearing what I have to say, as opposed to just not, which has been the case in the past. But for now, like I said, that's all. So wherever it is you are, I hope you find yourself somewhere worth going. I'll see you guys next time.